Hi, and welcome to the Dish on Divorce. I'm Jennifer Barkin.
And I'm Leanne Townsend.
And tonight we have a very special guest, Christine Denty. And Christine Denty is a real estate agent, but specifically she's a real estate agent for women.
Yes.
So Christine, that's interesting to me because usually when I hear of realtors, everybody's their client.
Yep.
But you're targeting women.
Yeah, definitely targeting women. I do look after pretty much every walk of life, men and women, but I do specifically have my services ranging towards women because I find it's an area that that there hasn't been a lot of focus where there should be a lot more focus in real estate.
Now, do you focus on women who are at all stages, like whether it's they're divorcing, whether they're buying their first home? Is it really just the focus is women and it doesn't kind of matter what their specific situation is, or do you have a specialty within women even?
You know what? Typically, I would say I want to say towards single women, but it's really essentially not. It's more that the woman, for whatever reason, she might be the decision maker. So you could have a married couple, but the woman is the one who makes most of the financial decisions. Or it could be someone who's maybe newly widowed, or someone who's newly separated, or maybe someone who's looking to buy their first home. So pretty much any situation where the woman is looking for more information other than the get-rich-quick investment schemes and things like that. This information's a lot more formal. It is to the point, and I feel that I've put in information in the book that that basically we as women are looking for.
So I didn't mention it, but I'll mention it now. Christine has written actually 2 books, and her recent book, which she's kindly given me a copy, called The Girlfriend's Fabulous Guide to Real Estate, and I love the cover. Nice picture of you in a
Thank you.
So you wrote a first book, and now you're writing a second book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's in the second book that wasn't in the first book, or are they completely different?
Okay, well, they are similar. The first book was released in 2016, but since then there have been several changes. We have the foreign buyers tax that was introduced in 2017. We have government assistance program that was introduced. There's so many other things. The stress test was also introduced. So all of those things are in my book as well. The new real estate guide, as well as more moving tips, more packing tips. So I just threw in a lot more in there now that my focus was, once you release your first book, you sort of like think about and you start plan the next one as changes happen. So I included a lot more into this book than there was in the first one as well.
Now, Christine, are there certain challenges that are unique to women who are in the real estate, out there looking to buy or sell a home?
I don't find there's as many challenges, no, because I think as women, we are information seekers. So I think that in my experience, women do quite well as far as their experience in real estate, essentially because, again, we do look for answers a little differently than men. So prior to being a real estate broker, I was actually a financial planner. And I had to learn a lot about the psychology of the investor. And I learned that women investors are much different than men investors. So men are more the buy, like day trading type of personality, whereas women are more the buy and hold, longer term investment in order to be successful with their investments. I find that women buyers and sellers are quite the same as well, as far as that's concerned, is that they're more research oriented. So I find that there's less pitfalls just through my own experience with my clients with women, because they tend to know what they want and they do a lot of research. The book for me was my opportunity to kind of hone in all this research and put it into one to be able to give to my clients or anybody who is looking for more information about real estate.
So I'm a family mediator, and Leanne's a family law lawyer. And One thing that I see with my clients, and Leanne sees with hers, I think, women, when they're coming out of a marriage, they often have had no experience with buying a home, selling a home. They're scared, having to get a mortgage on their own. Do you find that women coming out of a relationship, like a long marriage, they need more hand holding, they need more specific help?
I actually don't. I find it's quite equal. I find there's just as many men that could be coming out of a relationship where now, this day and age, the women are oftentimes the ones handling the finances and getting, hunting for the good mortgage rate and the good mortgage broker. Through my experience, when I deal with couples, to be honest with you, a lot of the times I actually am dealing with the wife, again, being the information seekers, security seekers. So I actually find that a lot of women do have the knowledge, and they are looking for the knowledge. So in saying that, I mean, I just find that they're sort of a little more prepared a little bit than the men tend to be when a separation or split is occurring. So I know it sounds strange, but gone are the days of the sort of, the women that don't have a clue, or they're not, reading and watching and learning. That a lot of, I find a lot of women are quite knowledgeable and looking for the information, like almost sometimes more so than the men are.
Wow.
So yeah.
I think that's really interesting. It surprises me because, and maybe it's a reflection of my age, but I know even when I'm divorced and when my marriage ended, the times when I went looking for a house, I often still had my ex-husband involved in, and I'm a lawyer. This is as a lawyer who negotiates for other people. I still would go and have my ex-husband get involved in the negotiations and helping me out. But as I say, like I'm over 50, so it could be, good on the younger women that they're, making those kind of decisions themselves and not looking to men to help them out.
Yeah, it's most certainly. Yeah, I agree. Because I mean, every couple has their strengths. So sometimes you might think that the man might be the one who's got all the information, but again, the woman could be the one who's the sort of the information seeker more so. But it could be in reverse, right? But more and more women who are owning homes on their own, not requiring a partner in order to do that. So again, like I said, this book was just screaming to be written, again, because as women, we're naturally, we are information seekers. So, I wanted to fulfill that as well. But yeah, so, to your point, it's like you could have both couples, like different strengths coming into play at different times as well.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I know from your own story, you went through divorce.
Still going through, actually.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's so much fun.
Oh, no. Well, you might not want to say too much detail on this live show if you're still going through it.
Certainly am. Yeah.
Are there challenges that you see when people are having to, let's say, sell the matrimonial home, dealing with emotions?
Most certainly. I mean, people, you can't split the house in half and say each take half, like as far as like physically. So yeah, it never really feels fair when you're going through this sort of thing. But in the end, it's just something you have to go through, and hopefully you walk away with, the shirt on your back, and that's about it. So, and the person is not necessarily from here either. So I have all those other things to sort of contend with as well. So yeah. So good times.
Not really.
That you see people making.
What's that?
What are some of the common mistakes that you see, that you see people making when they're buying or selling a home?
Number one, I would say, is to not get pre-qualified before making your house search, or that the steps in getting pre-qualified are not fully seen through. This day and age, we're looking at multiple offers on the constant, and even when we're not, the landscape has completely changed because, again, you don't want to waste everybody's time and then end up not being able to get the home of your dreams. What I find is when a lot of times when people realize they want to make a move, they actually start shopping right away before the financing is even really worked out, and they fall in love with something right away. And I always tell people, once you start looking, you will fall in love with something. You're going to want to see it. So I try to ask people to sort of, not go out and go shopping quite yet, because a lot of times this can happen very, very quickly. Before you know it, you're making offer. Before you know it, you're calling lawyers and making appointments, and you may not even have all the eggs sort of sorted out. So that's one common mistake that I find. That's probably the most common mistake that I find that buyers make. Another one is whatever they do get qualified for, they're right at the peak of that. And there's no real backup plan if, let's say, for example, they go and buy a home and the finance company decides, well, you know what, we don't agree with what you paid for the home. And when that happens, you have to come up with a difference. So if you don't have a backup plan and you can't close, you're going to have a really big problem. You could get sued. Your deposit goes towards legal costs. I mean, a lot of things can happen. You've now, compromised someone else's life, which we don't want to do. Essentially, you want everybody happy. So in and around that, and what happens is, like I said, you fall in love with the house and you're just willing to throw it all, all the plans and everything go out the window and all the formalities back at the ranch. You know what? You have to put these things in place before you go out and shop and buy. Definitely.
Sounds like when you get too passionate about something, that you can also make the mistake of, in multiple offers, just sort of losing your intelligence and using your emotion, which is a huge mistake in divorce. But it sounds like it is when buying a house as well.
Oh, most certainly. Most certainly. It is an emotional experience, and it's on both sides of the coin, whether you're the buyer or the seller, it's very, very emotional. And what I always say is, if I have a listing, I say, they let them tell their story on paper, because again, when you're looking at, okay, you want to make sure there's a large enough down payment. You want to make sure that this deal looks realistic. Like, is this going to close? And what's the story behind, behind all of this? Why are they looking to buy in that area? Why are they, why this particular home? So there's so many factors, and as a realtor, you have to ask all these questions and find out, sort of do a little bit of digging to make sure that this is a deal that's going to stick as well. Most certainly.
I'm curious, as a real estate agent, like on the point that Jennifer just mentioned, as a lawyer, one of the things I'm always telling clients is to keep their emotions, out of their decision making, out of any of the legal decisions, out of the courtroom, all of that sort of thing. But I don't know, almost as a real estate agent, it almost seems like when people get caught up in emotion and they get in a bidding war and they pay maybe more than they should have, like emotion, like I hate to say it, almost can work to the advantage of a real estate agent in terms of the commission piece of it. And so I'm just wondering how you deal with, if you do have a client and they're in this situation where there's multiple offers and, the emotion is kicking in, how do you handle someone in that type of situation?
You know what? If someone is falling in love with a home, I mean, essentially, as a realtor, I want them to have that home. So we have a discussion where you say, okay, ideally, for example, I'll just use $1 million home. So ideally, you want to pay no more than $1 million, ideally. Okay. And then let's say we get into multiple offers. Let's say you might pay $25,000 or $100K over that to get the home. You make these certain agreements at different tiers. Anything above that, and assuming that the buyer, that they are qualified, it's emotional money. So after that point, because the unfortunate thing is that a lot of people want to tell their friends, hey, I got a deal. Not in this market. But if you fast forward in a few years, then yes, essentially you can look at it, what's 10 or 20,000 when the market keeps going up and up and up. It really doesn't mean anything anymore, because the value is going to go up. And if it's a house that you're that passionate about, your next buyer down the road, may, exhibit the same passion about your home when you go to sell it. So you sort of have these discussions with your clients about these different tiers of, okay, at this point, this is a good price. After that, it's so that you get the home. After that, well, that's just emotional, and it's okay. It's okay to not tell your sister, your friends, your parents that you didn't get the deal of a century, but you got the home. And if you're at peace with that, that's all that matters. That's all that matters.
So, I'm sure you meet with people that are getting a divorce and the house is going for sale. What's the craziest story you've heard?
Oh, gosh. There was one in Ajax, and the soon-to-be ex-husband would not leave on the closing date, and he was basically camped out in the garage with his stuff.
So it's like he came with the house.
Yeah, pretty much. He didn't want to leave, and I guess he had some emotional issues, and he was pretty much wouldn't leave the garage. And they didn't know he was there until they got the keys. And I mean, we handled it, but it certainly wasn't very pleasant. No, so you can't really, do that. Like, settlers' rights don't really come into play in the same way, with that regard. So.
Bonus right with the house,
right? Unless he's willing to do the lawn, the housework, and all of that jazz. But I don't think he was really there to do any of that work.
So your book. Go back to your book, Girlfriend's Fabulous Guide to Real Estate, the Woman's Manual to Buying, Owning, and Selling a Home. It's your second book. And where can you get it? Okay,
pretty much if you Google it, you'll find I have it on Amazon. It's soon to be on Chapters.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My first edition is still showing on Chapters. It takes them a little while. Like, this is how fresh, hot off the press that this is. Kindle books. Pretty much any book outlet online, it will be available. Yeah,
that's excellent.
It looks amazing. Who would be the best sort of target audience for your book? So for listeners who, or who have certain questions, like what are the types of things that it covers?
You know what? It covers buying, owning, and selling. So it doesn't matter what stage you're at, even if you're currently a homeowner, even if you're not, even if you're renting, or if you live in bricks and under a roof, there's a home maintenance plan in here that helps you take care of the home that you're living in, because that's always a consideration. Because I know myself, until I became a homeowner, I really didn't have a clue what I was doing. Taking the weather protective thing off the compressor of the air conditioner out, but I didn't know that thing was running anyways, so I don't even want to go there. So there's certain things that, just basically step by step how to maintain your home. If you're thinking about buying, this will give you some information. If you're thinking about selling, you want to do it yourself staging, or you're just looking for some information or even to help someone else, or you can gift this book to someone else as well, which makes a great gift, because again, you're helping someone help themselves as well.
So it's like a self-help guide to real estate.
Yep. And you don't have to read it, front to back. It's just basically whatever your situation is. You go to that page and, you work from there. What's been quite popular is I have something called the buyer timeline and a seller timeline. Because a lot of times when you're in the stages or embarking on it, you're wondering, okay, what do I do first? And then what's next? And then what do I do? It shows a timeline so you can project all the steps that you're going to do so you don't miss one thing. So that's really important.
Can you walk into a house?
There's a chapter on getting the buyer's ex-husband the seller's ex-husband out of the garage if they are still living.
Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to add that chapter.
What else would our listeners to know? how about where they could find you?
Yeah, so I live east of the GTA. So I'm in Brooklyn, which is Durham region. So I specially, when it comes to buying, I specialize obviously in my area since I grew up there. So as far as anybody looking to buy a home in the Durham region and sell a home, that's my main specialized area. But when it comes to selling, I'll pretty much sell a house anywhere. We do a lot of research in the background. So I either would contact one of my partners at Right at Home brokerage where I am that specializes in your area, or I myself. But particularly, I'm in the East GTA, so that's where you can find me. So anybody looking to gain some knowledge about what it's like to, what the market is like to buy or to sell right now, I'm certainly always available for any questions or to service anybody in this area.
That's great.
If you had to give
Go ahead.
advice to somebody selling their home, what are the best things that they could do and the biggest mistakes that they can make?
Okay, so the best thing they can do, I would say, is to involve a realtor early on in the process. I like to be able to help them make those decisions on whatever improvements that they should be making in the home. Most of the time, they save money by going through me. I don't tend to have the person incur costs saying, you got to buy this, you got to do that. It's more about, okay, what are the features of your home that we want to, to sort of display, but a lot of times it's not what you think, and you don't have to spend as much as you think you do in order to put a house on the market, especially in this market. And as far as buyers, again, it comes right down to get pre-qualified. If you don't have someone, every realtor has someone in their back pocket that will work with them. And that's always a good route to go, so that those two can communicate effectively in order to help you effectively. And as well, coming into play, having a lawyer that's part of that circle too is definitely an advantage, because again, it's that communication, everybody working well together. So I would say just doing things in advance of when you're ready to do it, not like boom right now and then you get overwhelmed and you're sort of going at it sort of half blind, right? So you want to be prepared in advance for sure.
Makes sense.
One of the things that I find really interesting nowadays in real estate is staging. And, I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, how on a sort of theoretical level, I find it so bizarre how in order to sell our homes for maximum dollar, we have to take all the furniture out, put it in storage, and have the home staged, so that it looks like nobody's living there, because nobody is. They've gone to stay at a hotel. But yet it really makes it makes the difference, right? I mean, staging, it seems like it's become extremely important to selling a home.
Yeah, it's become a standard, like a minimum standard. But again, it depends on the home, because if you have a home that has not been updated a whole bunch, staging kind of could make the place look a little awkward. It's just more about maybe decluttering at that point. With the market being as sort of wild as it is right now, there's some clients I'm saying, screw staging, just put it on the market now before the ride is over. Because I myself made that mistake. It was right before the foreign buyers tax was introduced. I was about to list my home and I thought, I'm just going to do one more renovation because I want to kill it. Guess what? Foreign buyers tax gets announced, $150,000. My home value dropped in a week. Had I have just put the darn thing on the market, I would have been singing Kumbaya, yeah, right? So it was kind of a tough pill to swallow. And when the market is doing what it's doing now, I probably wouldn't go through too many hoops and circus acts trying to I would just put it on the market. We'll just make sure every buyer is pre-qualified. I mean, we just do a good job selling at that point, because in that case, staging isn't going to make a huge difference when you have 30 offers per property. People just want to get in somewhere. They're seeing past the couch and the lamp and the fake plants, right? So, at that point, give them the product.
All they're looking at is the avocado green stove. So nothing else, right?
Yeah. You can replace that.
That's funny.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really interesting hearing all this helpful information, and your book looks amazing. Definitely, I'll keep that in mind for clients and check out a copy myself.
Most certainly, and I'll make sure that my clients that could be in a stage of divorcing look you guys up and tune into your show as well, because I
We'd
think it's
appreciate that.
I like the support for my clients, since I like to support them anyways. To further support them with the two of you, I think would be outstanding.
Thank you so much.